My name's not Rodney, my name's Dave.
Dave Hodgson, The Daily.
It's definitely Dave.
Welcome back to the show, and now it's time to go to TRE's sports presenter, Dom Aldworth, for the Midweek Sports Roundup. Good afternoon, Dom. How are you?
Very good, thanks, David. Good afternoon to you as well.
Fantastic. Now, Happy New Year, by the way, because I've not spoken to you until, it's first time this year, so Happy New Year, Dom.
Thanks, Dave. Same to you, mate. Yeah, Happy New Year. All the best to you and your family for 2013.
And yourself, and did you have a good Christmas and New Year with the family?
Nice and relaxed, mate. It's all a bit of a distant memory at the moment, to be honest. But, yeah, nice and relaxed. But, believe it or not, there was actually some basketball, stateside NBA basketball on Christmas Day, which I had to cover. So a little bit of work was necessary throughout that period.
A bit of negotiations going on in the house, I assume.
Plenty of negotiations, yeah. It's called Swarovski, something like that.
I wouldn't have got away with it, Dom. You're a better man than me. OK, let's have a quick look at the sports roundup for this week. Now, starting off with golf.
Yeah, so much for rookies having nerves, Dave. Russell Henley birdied the final 5 holes en route to a final round, -763, to win by 3 shots over Tim Clark at the Sony Open in Hawaii. A couple of records falling along the way there for young Henley. His 4-round total of 256 was the lowest by a rookie on the PGA Tour ever, and the 3rd lowest overall in PGA Tour history. So keep your eyes out for this young talent, Russell Henley, on his first season on the PGA Tour. The next stop is the Humana Challenge, which begins tomorrow. That's from La Quinta Country Club. No, not here on the Costa del Sol, in California. Mark Wilson is the defending champion there. And across the Atlantic on the European Tour, Dave, which began in Durban in South Africa, the Volvo Golf Championships, I beg your pardon, and former Open champion Louis Oosthuizen shot a closing 6 under par 66 to finish a shot ahead of Scott Jamieson and record his 11th professional tour win, moving him up to number 4 in the world rankings in the process as well. But tomorrow is a really big event, the HSBC Championship. It's the next stop on the European Tour from Abu Dhabi. Robert Rock, remember, is the defending champion there. He defeated Tiger Woods in the final round last year, but all eyes will be very much on the top 2 players in the world there. The new $250 million man, Rory McIlroy, the world number 1, and Tiger Woods, the world number 2. He'll be featuring in this event for a 2nd year in a row. They'll be paired together over the first 2 rounds, so all the focus of attention will be very much on those 2 guys ahead of the beginning of the season.
Now, I don't know if I was dreaming it, Dom, this week, because I sometimes watch the sports news quite late at night when I'm winding down. Was there an announcement about who's heading up the European team at golf this week?
Yeah, there was actually. I was actually going to move on to that next. The Ryder Cup is in the Belfry next year. Of course, the Europeans are the defending champions. In fact, if I'm correct in saying, I think they've won 7 out of the last 10 Ryder Cups. And the announcement was made stateside about 4 weeks ago. That Tom Watson, for the 2nd time, will be returning as the captain of America. Now, Tom Watson has got great experience in conditions, playing golf in the United Kingdom. He was, I think, one of the last captains to actually lift the Ryder Cup for America as well. So very successful. And the announcement last night for the European team was made, and it was Paul McGinley, a veteran of 3 Ryder Cups as a player. He beat off competition yesterday from Paul Lowry, Sandy Lyle, Colin Montgomery, and Miguel Angel Jimenez. So, Paul McGinley from Ireland, he'll be the captain for the Ryder Cup team in the Belfry next year.
It's quite a privilege, isn't it, as well, to captain and lead the team out like that? Oh,
absolutely, Dave. This is just one of the greatest team sporting events on the planet. And, in a sport that's very much geared to individualism, week in, week out, as these PGA and European Tour players travel the world, you're showcasing their talent. Just for that weekend, it becomes just a real team showpiece, and every single 2 years it's as exciting as it was the previous event, and I'm sure it's going to be no different next year.
Look forward to it. Before the FA Cup then, action as well over the last week.
Yeah, there has been over the last day or two, Dave, and some more action this evening. And John Walters was the man of the moment, very much so for Stoke City, giving them a 4-1 win over Crystal Palace last night, setting up a replay of the 2011 FA Cup final against Manchester City. Bolton earned a 4th-round clash with Everton when they stunned Sunderland at home. Harry Redknapp's QPR and morale-boosting 1-0 victory over West Brom They'll now take on the MK Dons, who defeated Sheffield Wednesday. Fulham needed extra time to beat Blackpool 2-1. Leeds United booked a fourth-round clash with Tottenham Hotspur when they defeated Birmingham City 2-1. Brentford beat Southend 2-1, and they next faced Chelsea. A real FA Cup clash, that one. And Hull beat Leyton Orient. And the FA Cup action continues this evening. Arsenal host informed Swansea and Michu, who must be knocking on the door for a Spanish international call-up, and West Ham, who travel to Manchester United and take at Old Trafford.
Just before we move away from football, did you watch the Malaga-Barcelona match on the weekend?
No, I didn't, unfortunately. I did keep tabs on the score lines. I actually had one eye on the NFL playoffs. Yeah. Which I'll be talking to, so that actually took preference on my diary. But yeah, I mean, unfortunately for Malaga, I mean, they were always going to be up against it. It's a record-breaking start to the first half of the season for Barcelona. I mean, the statistics that they put on the board this season are unprecedented.
Unbelievable.
And unfortunately, it was Malaga just found out what pretty much every other side in La Liga has found out today, that Barcelona simply remain one of the greatest sides in the world.
And let me just interject there and say that we're broadcasting the first leg of the Kings Cup quarter-final between Barcelona and Malaga tonight. It's up there in Barcelona, and it's at 9 p.m. tonight with Kenny here, obviously Paul Breen-Turner as well. That's looking forward to that this evening.
Absolutely, and let's not forget, I was going to mention as well, last night Real Madrid have got one foot in the semi-finals. They defeated Valencia by 2-0, but Karim Benzema got on the score sheet there, and the winner over 2 legs of Malaga-Barcelona had the privilege of facing Real Madrid in the semi-finals there.
Yeah. OK, cricket, England v India then.
Yeah, it's the second one-day international. It was India defeated England in the second one-day international day to level the series one apiece of the 5-match series. Batting first, India set a pretty competitive 286 there. Mahendra Singh Dhoni, the Indian captain, scoring 72. Jadeja contributing with 61, providing the backbone of the innings for the Indians. 96 runs coming off that last 10 overs really hurt England. But I think what hurt England even more was the Indian spin attack. In reply, they simply had no answer to them. On a turning wicket, Ashwin taking 3 for 39, and Jadeja, who backed up his heroes with a bat, taking 2 for 12, reducing England to 158 all round, and a pretty comprehensive 127-run victory there for India. The third one-dayer is on Saturday as well.
That's going to be an interesting one then, after the way it started so far. OK, moving on to Aussie Open tennis, and the British girls doing relatively well, are they?
Yeah, absolutely. Couple of British ladies there. Heather Watson is now, I think, she's just moved up into the top 50 in the world. Not too far off, certainly one of the best performing women in recent times. And we'll start with the men's draw, if I may, and then I'm going to move on to Heather Watson. And just some action that took place today. There's been no major casualties on either the men's or the women's draw so far after day 3. One seed to fall today in the men's draw was Mikhail Yuzhny. The 23 seed was defeated by fellow Russian Yevgeny Donsky in 4 sets. A defending champion Novak Djokovic powered into the third round with a 6-1, 6-2, 6-3 win over American Ryan Harrison. And there were also wins today for the number 4 seed David Ferrer, who comes into this tournament off the victory at Auckland. Excuse me there, Dave. Yes, okay. Thomas Berdych, the number 5 seed, also progressed today. So did Janko Tipsarevic, the number 8 seed, and Fernando Tedesco. Yesterday, Roger Federer, the number 2 seed, and 4 times Australian Open champion, dispatched Bernard Payet from France. Excuse me there, Dave, I beg your pardon. In straight sets there. Andy Murray got it to a good start as well, 6-3, 6-1, 6-3 against Robin Haas. Roger Federer, second-round action, a very tricky one for him against former world number 5, Nikolai Davydenko. That's going to be a tricky one for Roger Federer. Andy Murray should cruise through against Sosa from Portugal. Novak Djokovic against the number 31 seed at Stefanik tomorrow, and David Ferrer takes on Marcus Baghdatis, who comes in off very good form as well. And let's talk about the ladies. Again, no major casualties. Venus Williams through today, Anna Ivanovic, Maria Sharapova, Agnieszka Radwanska, the number 4 seed, who's already won 2 tournaments in this year, comes into this sort of great form. And Heather Watson fought from a set down to defeat Kesnia Pervert in 3 sets to advance to the third round. Heather Watson now, unfortunately, has to play Agnieszka Radwanska in the 4th seed that I was talking about from Poland. That's going to be very difficult for her, but it's the first time she's reached the third round. Victoria Azarenka, the number 1 seed, still has to get through. She's in action tomorrow. So is Karolina Wozniacki, the former world number 1 and girlfriend of Rory McIlroy. Serena Williams, one of the firm favourites, is back in action tomorrow as well. And the other British hope that we're talking about, Laura Robson, she's in round 2, and she hopes to join Heather Watson in round 3 tomorrow when she takes on former Wimbledon champion and number 8 seed Petra Kvotova. Now, that might seem like a very tricky tie on paper, Dave, but I must assure you that Kvotova has not started, certainly hasn't played her best tennis for the last 6 months. And I think coming into that, Laura Robson will feel very confident that she can cause an upset there.
Certainly. You're struggling a little bit with a bit of a cough, Dom.
Yeah, just got a bit of a snivel going on, Dave. I'm actually standing outside on the terrace doing this as well, and it's a little bit nippy.
It is a little bit, isn't it? Okay, well, 2 more to go. NFL playoffs. If you need to have a break, let me know, and we can come back to you. NFL playoffs next, Sam.
Yeah, I've been very excited about this for those that tune into my show every weekend. Richard and I have been talking about the NFL playoffs at great length. Another person who enjoys it very much is Richard. And there was 8 days coming into this weekend. There's now 4. It was the championship playoffs. This weekend coming up, you have the AFC and the NFC championship playoffs and the right to make it into the Super Bowl. It was a very, very exciting weekend. It's one of the most anticipated weekends of the NFL matchups as well. And it was history. There are more points that were actually scored this weekend than there ever has been. And a lot of the games went down to the wire. We'll talk you through very briefly what happened. The Baltimore Ravens went to the Mile High City of Denver and snatched victory with a 47-yard field goal in second overtime to beat Peyton Manning's Broncos 38 points to 35. Ravens quarterback had an excellent game, throwing for 331 yards, 4 touchdowns. 2 of those to Torrey Smith, who incidentally I interviewed on my show barely 4 weeks ago. Yeah. They now take on Tom Brady and the New England Patriots for the AFC Championship this weekend. It's a repeat of last year's matchup. And this, like I said, is for a right for a place in the Super Bowl final. The Patriots defeated the Houston Texans 41 points to 28. Tom Brady making history, throwing for 344 yards, 3 touchdowns, and now has 17 post-season victories to his name as a quarterback, which is now he stands alone, having defeated Joe Montana's record from, I think, about 22 years ago.
Wow.
In the AFC Championship, this will be contested between the San Francisco 49ers, who Joe Montana used to play for, and the Atlanta Falcons. And there was more history there for a rookie San Francisco quarterback, Colin Kaepernick, who smashed the record books, rushing for 181 yards, a touchdown, and also throwing for 263 yards and 2 touchdowns on the way to a 45-31 victory there for the San Francisco 49ers over the Green Bay Packers. And a 49-yard field goal by Matt Bryant with 10 seconds left on the clock gave the Atlanta Falcons a win over the Seattle Seahawks by 30 points to 28. Falcons quarterback Matt Ryan throwing for 250 yards and 3 scores. It was a great performance by the Seahawks, who clawed their way back from a 20-point deficit, thanks to a superb performance by another rookie who's made some headlines this year, and that's the quarterback Russell Wilson. And I can guarantee you, Dave, I watched all 4 of those matches until about 4 o'clock in the morning this weekend, and it was well worth staying up for.
Yeah, certainly. And finally then, NBA comes to London, New York Knicks take on Denver. That should be quite I mean, if you're in London and that's your thing, then that's a great opportunity for you, isn't it?
It's a sellout, Dave. It's a sellout. It's at the O2 Arena. Very exciting sport, basketball. The New York Knicks are currently second in the Eastern Conference behind Miami. They've had 24 wins from 37 games. They have, however, lost 6 of their last 10. While the Pistons, who was 14 wins so far this season from 36 games, are in a really good run of form at the moment. They've won 7 from their last 10. So it's going to be a very exciting matchup. For those that can't get to the O2, it is going to be televised on Sky Sports as well. And the big names to look forward to, I can mention a couple of those. For the New York Knicks, Carmelo Anthony, who averages 29.3 points a game, 5 times NBA All-Star as well, and a gold medal winner in the London Olympics for the US team just recently in 2012. And for the Detroit Pistons, Greg Monroe, a young 22-year-old, he's in his second year in NBA. He's the big star for the Detroit Pistons this weekend in London.
Fantastic. Well, over the weekend, Dom, I was sitting down watching the darts, believe it or not, and I was nothing on TV. I thought, well, I'm going to watch the darts, and I really, really thoroughly enjoyed it. I said to my wife the next day, she walked in and said, we're watching darts at 3:30 this afternoon. She said, you what? So we're watching darts. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Fantastic. Did you get to see any of it?
Unfortunately, not my kind of sport, but they definitely have sort of, they made it more exciting, haven't they, the series.
I really enjoyed it,
yeah.
What's the most obscure sport that you would like to watch, Dom? If just trying to think off the top of my head.
The most obscure sport?
Yeah.
Goodness me, I suppose I'd settle for absolutely anything. I mean, most people would find American football very obscure, but when you actually get to understand the sport and you see how specialised it is and how disciplined and how fair it is to both sides, NFL football for me has become very quickly one of my favourite sports.
I was going to say, what's your favourite then? What's a sport that you can't definitely not live without watching?
Well, it's got to be pretty much so from my background and growing up in South Africa. You played cricket in summer and you played rugby in winter, and I suppose it's going to be difficult to edge those two sports off that. But I can tell you what, American football is doing a pretty good job this season of pushing for first place there.
Fantastic. Well, I don't think there's many other radio stations that are covering the NBA and the NFL, that's for sure. OK, thank you very much, Dom. We'll speak to you next week. Just tell us quickly what's happening on the Friday Sports Bar.
Well, I'll have Stuart, obviously my football expert Richard will be in there. We'll be covering the NFL playoffs, trying to get through as much sport as we possibly can, but more importantly as well, we have a second show which begins on Monday as well, so we'll be looking back at the results over the weekend. So for those of you that like your sport, you'll be having us twice a week.
Yeah, so that's on Monday evenings, isn't it? That's going to be fantastic as well. Because
Monday evening from 7 to 8.
It's always entertaining to see how much you got into 1 hour, so now you've got another hour to go at as well. But I'm sure you'll still run out of time.
I can assure you I'll still be throwing some of my preparation away.
Cheers. Dom, have a great rest of the week. We'll look forward to hearing you on Friday.
Cheers, Dave.
Cheers, Dom. Take care.